Happy 2K Day, everyone. NBA 2K22 is out on my birthday, September 10th, 2021, so what better time to go over the best teams to rebuild in NBA 2K22 MyNBA. There are a lot of intriguing teams, and my initial list had 19 teams on it. Unbelievable. Ultimately, I decided to cut this list down to a top 10 and add 2 honorable mentions for 2 totally different reasons. So, drop a like on the video if you get some value from it by the end, and make sure you hit the sub button if you haven't already to join the FG fam and be a part of great franchise content, which is what this channel is all about. Check out links to my Discord and Twitch in the description and come hang out with the guys and gals outside of just here on YouTube. Without further ado, let's jump into this list. Honorable mention number 1 is the Oklahoma City Thunder. Last year, they went 22-50. They're an 85 overall in the game, and their average age is 23 years old on their team. The Thunder would be the ultimate fun rebuild category, as they are already $57 million under the cap. In Season 2, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's extension will kick in, which will lose you about $24 million. However, still with plenty of money to spend and a ton of draft picks at your disposal, including 8 in the first 2 off seasons. This rebuild makes honorable mentions for being a wild and fun one, but I do think it would be a bit too easy, especially in a game like 2K. Youth and cheap contracts outside of the team's best player make it easy to navigate the cap and the army of draft picks that come along with that. That makes those young players easy to replenish. You would be hoping that Derek Favors declines his $10 million player option, but if he doesn't, you can just dump him for a draft pick to someone in the offseason. If you're just beginning your 2K journey this year with 2K22, the Thunder are definitely my beginner's choice this year. Then, if it's too easy, you can move up the ranks and maybe do a more moderate rebuild. Honorable mention number 2 is the Utah Jazz. At 52-20 last season, they were the number 1 seed in the Western Conference, but their average age is 27 years old, and for me, this is the ultimate win-now rebuild. The Jazz are the most disrespected team in NBA 2K22, in my opinion. Last year's number 1 seed in the Western Conference was given an 89 rating, while a team like the Denver Nuggets, who were knocked out in the same round as the Jazz, were given a 91. The Mavericks, who were knocked out in round 1 of the playoffs, are a 90. The reason I mention the Jazz here, even though they were the number 1 seed in the West, is that they've never won an NBA championship, and they are the ultimate win-now rebuild in 2K22. 3 players, Rudy Gobert, Donovan Mitchell, and Mike Conley, are all making $20+ million, and aside from Mitchell, most of the team is in their 30s, or at least very close to it. The cap will be difficult to navigate in the future with so many veterans making a hefty amount of money, and their draft capital isn't going to help you much. Their 2023 and 2025 firsts are protection backups for the 2022 first, that is a top 5 protected to Memphis, and the 2024 first, which is a top 10 protected to OKC as of right now. You're at the will of the lottery, so despite enough talent, if you can't get past the Lakers or the Clippers in year 1 or 2, you might have to just start a complete rebuild with this team. Number 10 is the Charlotte Hornets. As we finally break into the top 10, the Hornets have been bad. But last year they were 33-39. The average age of their team is 24, so maybe things are looking up. They did draft LaMelo Ball and signed Gordon Hayward, and suddenly they might be competitive. The challenge will be winning while LaMelo is on his rookie deal, which allows you to bring in some other top players. If you're poor enough in year number 1, you'll get your lottery-protected first-rounder back from the New York Knicks and lose your 2023 first to them instead as a protection backup. With all the right moves and possibly unloading either one of Hayward or Rozier to make way for a top-notch free agent, this team could be a force in the East somewhat quickly. That's ultimately why the Hornets fell to number 10 on this year's list instead of as high as they have been in years past. Number 9 are the San Antonio Spurs. They're an 86 overall in the game. They were 33 and 39 last year with an average age of 24. Now, the Spurs are number 9 because, honestly, I just don't feel bad enough for them after all the titles they have already won. It's kind of similar to a San Francisco Giants rebuild in MLB The Show. It's a team that has won a lot of championships. They're currently under the cap, and they could find themselves even more under the cap in year number 2. This could allow you to bring in a very good player to go with DeJounte Murray, Keldon Johnson, and Derek White. If you can find a way to dump off Dougie McBuckets and his $13.75 million contract, you might be able to bring in a max player even, which could go a long way in competing in the Western Conference. The Spurs were also smart enough to keep all their first-round picks and add in a 2025 top 10 protected from the Bulls, so there's a lot of firepower pick-wise. Number 8 is the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, I put the Cleveland Cavaliers at number 8. They were 22 and 50 last year with an average age of 24 as well. But I put them on number 8 on this list because while it is a legit rebuild to run in 2K22, it's just flat out boring to me. So many of my friends have run Cavs rebuilds over the last few years since LeBron re-left them, and I've grown tired of them already. That being said, it is a young core of guys with Jared Allen, Darius Garland, Colin Sexton, and the newly acquired Lauri Markkanen. If you can find a suitor to dump off Kevin Love's ridiculous money and get a bona fide small forward, this team can just grow together, as the oldest of those 4 guys is Markkanen at 24 years old. To me, that also makes this rebuild a little bit easy if you're just doing a patient rebuild and bringing in the right small forward. Pick-wise, they have pretty much all they need, having kept all of their first-rounders as well, so I think number 8 is justified. Number 7 is the Minnesota Timberwolves. They're an 86 in the game. They were 23 and 49 last year. Their average age is 24. And I know the Minnesota Timberwolves are perennially bad, but they really shouldn't be in a game like 2K. Cat is incredible, D'Lo's underrated as a scorer, and Anthony Edwards is a wonderful piece that they got in the draft. Of the top 11 players on their roster, everybody is 25 or under except Taurean Prince, who's 27, and Pat Beverly, who's 33. And both of those players are in their contract year. That'll save you $27 million going into season number 2. To make this rebuild really easy, I would trade Malik Beasley, who is stuck as a 6-man due to Anthony Edwards starting at the 2. Get yourself a good young small forward that can get this team starting 5 to be a competitive force, and maybe even try to trade up in the draft if needed with the 3 second-rounders that Minnesota possesses for this year. It's still going to be tough for the Wolves in the West, but this team can grow to be very talented. If it doesn't work year 2, D'Lo comes off the books and you can bring in another point guard and try again. Number 6 is the Indiana Pacers. They were 34 and 38 last year, one of those cusp playoff teams. They're an 85 overall in the game, but their average age is 26. Now, I didn't want to put the Pacers in the top 5 because I don't know what to think of this rebuild. Their starting 5 lines up perfectly with their 5 best players, and they're all talented, but everyone's making $12 million plus, and no one's signed past year 2, with the exception of Domantas Sabonis, who also happens to be their best player. I like Malcolm Brogdon and Karis LeVert, but not for $21 and $17 million respectively, so this rebuild could go either way. Who knows? Maybe the draft helps out a lot with the Pacers having all their first-round picks. Try to win with this talent year 1 or 2, or tear it all down. Knowing me, I'd probably go with the latter just because I like to have fun. Number 5 is the Chicago Bulls. Now, wait a minute. They're an 89 overall in the game. I know they were 31 and 41 last year, but they have an average age of 24 years old. Now, I know that they have added talent to this roster, but I don't know if rating them as high as the Jazz at 89 is quite fair here. DeMar DeRozan's very good, but like Nikola Vucevic, he's being paid, and they're getting old. They dealt a hefty bag of money to Lonzo Ball, but at 23 years old, he could be worth it. The issue for me here is Zach LaVine being in a contract year as the team's best player. You would want to bring him back, but may need to dump DeRozan or Vucevic to do it. This is an odd rebuild with a ton of young talent. In fact, the best youngest players both play point guard in Lonzo Ball and Kobe White. They got 2 firsts this year, with the lottery-protected one from Portland, which Portland should not be a lottery pick, so I would expect the Bulls to receive that pick. So maybe something can be done there with trading up or whatever, but their 2023 and 2025 picks are both out there with protection, so you got to watch out. This is another difficult rebuild to navigate, in my opinion. If you choose to run one with the Bulls, let me know what you do with them. And if the Bulls are the team you're a fan of, how do you feel about their present and future outlook? Let me know that in the comments section below. Number 4 is the Houston Rockets, another team with the average age of 24. They only won 17 games last year at 17-55, but they're rated an 86 in the game this year. But I love the Houston Rockets as a rebuild team in 2K22. However, they don't make my top 3 because I don't think I could bring myself to keep this rebuild realistic enough, to be honest with you. When I look at the Rockets, I want to dump half their roster for picks and run this like the OKC Thunder did it a couple years ago. I wouldn't likely want to keep John Wall, but I'd keep him year 1 and hope he declines his player option. Then when he doesn't, I would deal him for whatever I could get. Eric Gordon, Daniel Theus, and DJ Augustine, as well as David Nwaba, would all be off the team for draft picks and expiring deals if I could. Not to mention, Houston has 2 firsts in each of the first 2 years of the rebuild. I think I would have fun doing a Rockets rebuild for sure, and I might do one on Twitch just for kicks, but I don't want to do a long-form, episodic rebuild that is this unrealistic for a team that has won 2 championships in a row in the 90s. Number 3 is the Detroit Pistons. They're an 83 in the game. They went 20-52 last year, had the number 1 overall pick, and they are still the worst team in this game. Yeah, the Pistons are the worst team in the game at 83 overall, and their best player is Jeremy Grant. Yep, a guy who took until his 5th NBA season to average double-digit points. Now, they just took Cade Cunningham with the 1st overall pick from Oklahoma State. There's a lot of youth on this team, and if you dump off Kelly Olynyk and Corey Joseph, there won't be a player on roster in the 30s in year 2 of your rebuild, which is good because that's when Blake Griffin's dead money stops and you'll have tons of cap room to sign a true leader of men. I think the rebuild could be kind of easy, although pick-wise, the Pistons look thin there, and I think it could be the most popular rebuild on YouTube. So for those 2 reasons, I think the Pistons at number 3 are justified. Number 2 is the Washington Wizards, a team I attempted a couple years ago, but just couldn't continue the series for whatever reason. It just wasn't getting the views. They went 34-38 last year as an 86 overall team. Their average age is actually 25. Now, the Wizards have had quite a last couple of seasons, trading John Wall for Russell Westbrook. Almost got them to the playoffs last year, but that only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. And now they're faced with Bradley Beal's almost certain exit. He has a player option for Season 2 that he would likely decline to try to get a max deal elsewhere. This leaves you with 82 overall, 29-year-old Spencer Dinwiddie as the best player in Year 2. This rebuild could be rough as both Davis Bertans and Kyle Kuzma are combining to make $29 million over the next 3 seasons. The player you choose to bring in to replace Beal will be key in keeping the WizKids competitive, and drafting well will also be imperative in a rebuild like this. The drafting part will be interesting because the Wizards only possess a total of 6 picks from now till 2026. Especially since some of the team's recent selections like Thomas Bryant, Daniel Gafford, and Rui Hachimura might all be out after Year 2. This rebuild could be a long one, which could be fun. Number 1 is the Orlando Magic, an 84 overall team in the game. Average age is 24, and they only won 21 games last year at 21-51. The Orlando Magic take the number 1 spot for me in NBA 2K22 this year. Why? We know they're bad. They've been bad for a while, but they have so many draft picks to change that, as 2024 is the only year between now and 2026 that Orlando doesn't have 3 draft choices. To add to that, the guys that they're paying money to long-term are all youthful. This team has 2 players in their 30s, Terrence Ross, who's done after year 2, and you might be able to get value for dumping his salary if you wanted to, and Robin Lopez, who is in a cheap expiring deal right now. Now, Mohamed Bamba has a $22.71 million team option for year 2 that I'd personally decline, but Wendell Carter Jr., the team's best player at 81 overall, is in a contract year. So, decisions at the center position. Markelle Fultz is 23 years old, but he's making $16.5 million per year over the next 3, and his playing time could stifle Jalen Suggs and Cole Anthony's growth, so I'd likely look to move him for a 2-guard and dump Terrence Ross's contract. To me, Team Disney would be a fun rebuild for 2K22, and my personal favorite, all things considered. What team will you run with in NBA 2K22? Do you want to see an NBA 2K22 MyNBA on this very channel? Let me know in the comments section below. If I do run one, I'd likely run it alongside an NCAA Basketball 10 Dynasty and merge the 2 worlds together with storylines and intricacies like that. So if that's something you want to see, let me know that you'd like to see it and that you would support it on this channel. I hope you guys have gotten some value from this video and it helped you select a team to use in this year's NBA 2K22 franchise mode called MyNBA. Make sure you guys smash the like button. If it did give you value, turn the sub button from red to gray and comment to let me know that you want to see 2K on the channel this year. Make sure you also check out the description and join the Discord, as well as follow the Twitch to get more in touch with the fantastic community that we're building here full of franchise gamers. If you guys want to see more franchise, check out some of these ongoing series and catch up with the action. If you somehow made it to the end of the video, comment 2K22 in the comment section to let me know you made it, because you're a real one.